Welcome to GoSimcha, the podcast that takes you on an in-depth approach to the Jewish music, entertainment, and simcha world. Now, here's your host, Zisha Littman. The following episode of GoSimcha, the podcast, is proudly sponsored by Keren Simchas Chassan V'Kala. Keren Simchas Chassan V'Kala was founded over 25 years ago and is based in Brooklyn, New York. KSCVK helps widows, orphans, and people who are in dire need of marrying off a child. Working through their network of vendors, KSCVK ensures that every wedding is just as special as the next. Run by world-renowned party planner Devorah Benjamin, KSCVK takes care that each wedding is as elegant as the next one, ensuring dignity and class through every wedding that they put on. To donate to KSCVK, please visit their website, kscvk.org, today. That's kscvk.org, and help make someone's wedding special. Hey everybody, welcome back to GoSimcha the podcast. This is our final show. We're wrapping it up right before Pesach. We're going to take like a little break. I know, I'm sorry. We are going to take a break from the show. But we will be back after Pesach. So I figured, you know what, let's do a very awesome episode. Every episode is awesome. Let's sit down with a really cool guy this week. He just put out a new single. He is someone who's been in the music business for a very long time. You've probably had him at your wedding. You probably heard him sing at somebody else's wedding. But I'd love to welcome to the show Cantor Chaim Dovid Berson. Welcome to the show, Chaim Dovid. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is very exciting.
Yeah, my pleasure. Listen, you are a very special person with a very wonderful voice, and I'm happy that I got to sample some of your music earlier today and I get the pleasure of sitting down and talking with you. So what's going on with you? Getting ready for Pesach?
Yeah, definitely getting ready for Pesach, like all the rest of us. You know, there's two ways of getting ready for Pesach. There's some people get down on their knees and scrub and clean and shop and cook, and then there's the people that have to pack, you know. So I actually, for a while, for over 10 years, I've been out with a program in Europe.
Oh wow!
I sing, I entertain, and I'm one of the guests. So we're packing up our suitcases. We are leaving tomorrow to Crete in Greece.
Oh, lovely!
That's where I'm going to be for Pesach. Yeah. Really nice.
That sounds actually really exciting, and I heard the water over there is beautiful.
It's very blue.
Yes. Ooh, you can find some Tefillahs.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So you know, it's funny. I was going to say, you know, I'm actually in Israel, so we like Pesach around here because it's only 7 days and not 8. And I heard that you actually grew up in Yerushalayim. So what's that? So tell us about that. Tell us about your beginning, about your story. What's your deal?
So that is true. I was born and raised and grew up in Yerushalayim in a neighborhood called Neve Yaakov. You may ask, מאיפה האנגלית המצוינת?
Yeah.
But so my family is originally from the United States. My parents made Aliyah shortly before I was born. And then I was born in Israel, but we spoke English at home. I'm sure many American Israeli families can identify with that.
Yeah.
So that's true. I grew up in Israel, and like you mentioned before about the Yom Tov, the extra second day. It's we have a reminder every Chag that it's not our home. We're in Galut.
Right.
We got to head back. You know.
Right. That's so funny. So you're really Yerushalmi.
Yes. I am, you know, in Yerushalayim growing up, when we say Yerushalmi, it's usually referring to someone who's like, you know, 10 generations in Yerushalayim. So I can't claim that, but I am a Yerushalmi, and I hope to continue being one at some point in the future.
Nice. So how did you, growing up in Neve Yaakov? I mean, I actually, when I was many years ago, I used to kind of hang out over there as my home away from home. So I know the neighborhood a little bit. A lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting places. Actually, even before I moved out here to Beit Shemesh, I lived behind the fence over there in the Green Line in a place called Tel Zion. So I know Neve Yaakov. I know the area very well. So how did you get into singing? How did you get into music? Living in such a Neve is a pretty Haredi community. How'd you get into this whole world of Chazzanus and singing and everything like that?
So obviously, being Haredi and that kind of community is not a contradiction to good music and appreciation and enjoyment of music. And I grew up in a family that really appreciates music and has a great passion and love for music. I wasn't necessarily, I was very shy as a child, so I wasn't out there performing or one of those wonder child, Yelet Pele, but I loved singing, and I sang in a choir a little bit when I was a kid, and my father and Shabbat and all that was always very, very something that we used to do a lot and we really had a passion for. So music was always out there for me. And a little later on, when I was a teenager, I kind of got more into it on my own. I started playing guitar and I took some lessons and I was practicing a lot. And then I started taking some voice lessons. I really got into it and started investing time and interest. And when I was, I'd say around 19, I started doing some gigs, bar mitzvahs, small weddings, things like that. Right. I was still full-time in yeshiva, so I wasn't really ready to start doing this so often, but every now and then there were opportunities to do it, and I would take advantage. Not long after that, I started studying at the Tel Aviv Cantorial Institute. One of the things I picked up, over the years as a teenager was Chazzanut, was our traditional cantorial music, which is a whole genre on its own. Right. And I really, there were many things about it, but the level of sophistication and the powerful emotion that's in that music, together with the fact that it's something that's really part of our Tefilah. It's something we all do on a much smaller scale musically, but it's really a development of the tunes and the nusach that have been with us for so many years that we all do in every show, in every community. We're really taking it to the next level and beyond. And that's something that really, really appealed to me, I really connected to. And now Chazzanut is a lot more in style, and there's a lot more people listening and going to concerts. But back then, it was still the end of the era where it kind of it died down a little bit. Chazzanut used to be a really popular, 50, 60 years ago, and before then. But it sort of kind of went off the map a little bit. But now there's a revival in a way. So that was the beginning. So I had a few friends in yeshiva, and we used to get, cassettes of Chazanim and things like that. And we used to listen and take them apart and discuss the different parts. There's a lot going on there. And I loved davening for the Amud. I loved leading, the tefillot and shul. And there was a family simcha or there's an opening. The Gabbai would have me daven. So a few of my opportunities actually came through that. I had a couple of people in the neighborhood where I grew up in Neve Yaakov that were musicians, that were full-time musicians, and that's what they did. Right. And they heard me, and they said, there's some potential there. Would you be interested in singing with us? And that led to, a beginning of this whole thing. The same thing kind of happened with the Chazzanut. It was something that I just did as a hobby, and I really enjoyed. But I was at a family simcha, and I davened, did my usual thing. And there was a distant relative that I haven't really met before that's very into Chazzanut, and he's good friends with Cantor Naftali Hershtik, which ended up to be my teacher. And he said, you should consider studying this professionally. You should go learn it, in a proper way. And that was something that, I was interested in and I was excited about. I just didn't really think go to a cantorial school and study. That wasn't really on my radar. But he made the proper introductions, and one thing led to another. The following year, I started studying in that school. Wow. And that really opened up so many doors and so many opportunities and options. And, learning all about it and all these things that I was just fascinated with. And touring around the world, singing and meeting different people that I would have never met if not through this cantorial school. And that eventually led to And I want to let you to ask more questions, but eventually that's sort of what led to where I am today, and working as a cantor in the United
That's
States.
Fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. I do have one question to ask you about what's with the little hat?
What's with the little hat? It's not so little.
I know it's not so little, but what's with the hat? I've always wondered. Like, you always see these pictures of the Chazzanim, and they got that hat. I mean, it's a cool hat. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I
own a couple of them,
and I'd switch my Strimel with that for a minute. But what's with the hat?
Definitely a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So the truth is, this is something that goes way back to Europe, and especially Western Europe. Okay. It was something that wasn't. The rabbis also wore a similar uniform in the synagogue. Clergy, the Klei Kodesh, the leaders of the community, had a special outfit, a special uniform that they wore in the synagogue. There are a lot of research and open discussions about exactly the origins. It's hard to. It's a little obvious that there's definitely a strong influence from the church. You know, it's not so far from that outfit. Right. But at the same time, there were slightly differences. But that's sort of something that became mekubal. It became like the traditional dress code for a professional cantor that leads the synagogue. And there's something to it. It's like the robe that they wear. It's very similar to something you'd see in court. Right. Or like a lawyer and a judge. And the whole reason we have those dress codes is to show people that it's a symbol that this is something special. There's something you have to treat with respect. This is something above just the casual and the day-to-day things that we do. And is even in your community, probably in Israel. So right, the Rebbe has his special dress code, and rabbis wear the frock and the Hamburg. There's certain things. All these things were not necessarily invented by us. Right. But they were important wardrobe that was used to add to the decorum and the specialty of what's going on.
Well, that answers my question. I've always wondered about that because I find the levush very interesting because, as you mentioned, it sort of like looks like something you would find in the churches, but it you know what I'm saying, like it has that look to it. But you're saying that it's different, obviously, and
there are differences, but it's clearly the reason they use it at the church. There's a reason for it. This is not something that's part of the religion. This is something that's more. It has an effect. It has a chashivas, and honestly, again, I can't prove this in any way, but if you really want to go back, I find that it also resembles the Kohen Gadol a little bit. So that's true. Go even earlier in history, and the mitznefet, the high hat. That's true. It's something regal. It's something that really is a prestige and special thing that really it adds to the whole awe and specialty.
Where do you get those? There's like Cantor stores.
There are a few people that make them. Yeah, I used to get my hats years ago in a yarmulke store in Yerushalayim. So there was an old man that used to make kippot, and he used to make these hats as well. Because it is sometimes in a way like an extended kippah. It's similar in some ways, but it's soft. It folds.
It's like the Har Sinai.
Yeah. So there are a few people out there that make them. It's not something that it's easy to find in any Judaica store, but if you need one, I can hook you up.
Totally. I'm totally I'm there. I'm totally there. Wow.
We'll put a special ad on GoSimcha.com for Cantor hats.
Well, Well, that's something we don't do ads on principle.
But you can hook up people that need. That's what you do, right?
We can embroider it.
Yeah, you can have a GoSimcha logo on the.
If I were to embroider your cantorial hat with my logo, would you wear it?
I would wear it. I don't know if I would wear it in the synagogue, but I could wear it for you.
Sababa.
Get a couple of pictures.
Sababa.
Well,
so next time you're here, we're gonna make it happen. I have a friend of mine who has an embroidery company. We'll make it happen.
Let's do it.
That's exciting. You just made my day. But no, I'm saying wow, you have that's a fascinating story of how it all kind of like came together. That must be interesting to have gone to like this Tel Aviv Cantorial Institute. Like what kind of people are there? Like what kind of people graduated in your class? Like what have these people gone on and done the same thing you're doing, but in a different way? Because I know, like you said, Chazzanut is kind of coming back in style. It's not necessarily like a from thing as well. I've seen videos on YouTube of people doing Chazzanut, but it's not necessarily like, not everybody's doing it with that same intent, like you're saying.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The Tel Aviv Cantorial Institute has been one of the best experiences of my life, and still is. Obviously, I'm still in touch, and I go back to visit every now and then when I'm in Israel. And still there, full of talented students, and it's you should, if it ever works for you, you should go visit. It's quite an experience to see how it all happens. So one of the specialties of the school for me, the special experiences, were exactly what you said, that it's not something that is really only for one kind of person or for one kind of community or one kind of background. In yeshiva, so usually there's a yeshiva for this community, yeshiva for that community. It's usually you kind of are surrounded by people that have similar values and similar backgrounds and similar goals. There, it's there's one common denominator, which is Chazzanut and music and a passion for Tefilah and singing. So I've met the most amazing group of people that I probably would have never met in any other place, and some of them became my best friends. And it was just so special that you would have this group of, like, on one end you'd have Ger Hasidim with the full, before get up, and on the other hand you'd have modern Orthodox kippot srugot. Some we had at the time, there was a young guy that had like this afro. Oh, wow. He was from America, but it was like, but everyone, it worked so well together because we all shared the same passion and the same interest, and we just made music together, and it was such a special thing because you get to meet amazing people that you unfortunately would not meet otherwise. And, studying together on a weekly basis and then performing at shows together, traveling around the world together, really creates these amazing bonds and these amazing connections. And again, on top of all that, doing music, which is something we all share a love and a passion for, it was such a great experience. And the head of the school is Cantor Naftali Hershtik, one of the well-known cantors in the world. He was the Chief Cantor at the Great Synagogue in Jerusalem for many, many years. And he's just an incredible teacher. And he has the whole team there. We have Raymond Goldstein, that's a known arranger, composer, and accompanist that coached us, and a few other teachers that are just really great in their field. And that was something that I learned so much from. And also, like I said at the beginning, just opened up the door to this whole world out there of communities that have Chazanim. And it's not necessarily the communities that we might know or that I grew up in. It's very, very different, but they still have that culture of having a professional cantor, Chazzan, lead the davenings every week, not just on the holidays, not just in the Chagim. And it's special.
Oh, 100%. Now it's funny. We're talking about the Chazzanah side of you. Before we hit the record button, we were having a fun conversation about how the other side of you is that you're kind of a hybrid, as you mentioned before to me. That you not only are you a Chazzan, but you also sing in the conventional Jewish music space as well. So and you just put out some new music, and you have had a couple albums out there. So how'd that happen? How'd you break into that space?
So that was always going on at the same time. I actually started as a singer and started, with regular pop Jewish music. That was what I grew up with, and I loved singing. So I started my first gigs were weddings and bar mitzvahs and different, kumsitzes and stuff like that. So that stuff was always there. And before I moved to the United States, I was a full-time wedding singer in Israel. Very busy. I was like almost every night, all over the country. And it's something that I was doing, I was doing a great job, I think, and I was working with older bands. It was a lot of fun. And it just shifted, when I moved to the United States. I kind of moved here for a Chazzanut position. So that kind of took over for a little bit. But then slowly I started getting back into the scene over here. And now I'm doing a lot of smachot, and I work with a lot of bands. And I've done several projects over the years of recordings and shows of what we call Musika Hasidit, and recently, about a little over a year ago, I put out my first full album, which was mainstream Jewish music, not anything else, and
that must be crazy.
It's been a great experience.
I was gonna say that must be crazy though, like from what, like to be classically trained in Chazzanut and like to be involved in such a rich music and that side of things, and then shift over to like conventional pop music. Like that must be like very interesting in your head. Like, you must, how do you deal with it? I'd lose my mind.
It is. Yeah, I do ask myself this question all the time, and I find myself thinking about it a lot, and dealing with different projects and different situations. It really brings that out. And the truth is, I'm still looking for the answer. I enjoy both. I can relate to both. I can do both. So right. I still would like to do. People always say you have to choose, to make a decision and choose one way and go with it. And I could relate to that, but at the same time, I'm not there yet. And I feel that it doesn't have to be separate. Obviously there are a lot of things that are very different and they don't really work in each side. But I'm in some ways I'd like to find the proper blend. It doesn't mean that someone who's doing mainstream Jewish music can be classically trained and have the knowledge of that classical side. And at the same time, and honestly, you said there's a revival of Chazzanut, which is true in a way, but on the other end, it's still nowhere near what it used to be. And it's like the average shul does not have the interest in hearing Chazzanut on a regular Shabbat. Right. It's back as entertainment. People would go to a show to hear it. People would have a special Shabbat Chazzanut, and they'll bring, but people go to shul, it's kind of separate from their shul. So right. That's where I really bring those two together, where I work, where I sing every Shabbos. I'm not doing necessarily Chazzanut and anything heavy. My knowledge of Chazzanut and experience, I can do a proper Tefilah, but at the same time blend it with contemporary and current nigunim and tunes and songs that everyone knows, and have like a lighter flowing davening that's not really very different.
It's kind of like Chazzanut light. It's kind of like Chazzanus light.
Yes, in a way. But at the same time, I could pull it out when necessary every now and then, especially on high holidays, where there's more room for the traditional stuff. Right. And also just knowing the structure of Tefilah and knowing the proper modes and tunes that should be used in Tefilah. There's such a rich Mesorah tradition for that part.
Oh,
that
sure.
And it doesn't in any way have to be a conflict or a contradiction. It's like, for example, and this is something that's at a very basic level, but in my shul currently, we sing the whole Kedusha and Musaf from beginning to end. Wow. So instead of doing Nusach for the first few verses and then singing at the end, we do different nigunim for every paragraph. Right. Now, I choose my nigunim for the first two, at least. They have to be in major. It could be a song, right? It could be a popular song, but it should be in major because that's what the nusach is. That's what's appropriate for that text. Right. Then, moving on to the second part of Kedusha, then I can vary. I can go to minor, I can go to, Frigish, I can go to different things that are more, because the nusach also shifts over there. So that's just an example of how it doesn't necessarily have to work against each other. It's not all or nothing. And in the end, the parts where you dive in this, like they take the same amount of time, you're just doing them properly and really making something out of it and understanding the framework really enhances both.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Now, have you ever thought of doing some sort of like mashup, but like an album where you do like kind of like a mashup, bring the classical Chazzanut with the contemporary Jewish music and kind of bring them together?
I've thought about it. It's a cool idea, and it's something that is out there. It's something that has to be evaluated if there's a market for it and how to do it. If you listen to one of my songs, there's the first song that I put out as a single a few years ago, and it's on the album. It's called Echad Hashem.
Yeah.
It has a bridge in there that kind of is like a taste of that cantorial side. So it's like a very upbeat contemporary song, but in the middle there's like a Shema Yisrael that's fully cantorial, but on top of like modern music. So there were singers over the years that tried doing that. It's out there. It's on the table. It's on the shelf. It might happen.
It sounds like it would be quite interesting. I would buy the album. It sounds like it'd be very, very interesting.
Okay, I know I have already at least one customer.
Oh, there you go.
So that's it's a good start.
I'm an easy sale though. I like I said, I'm a musician. I'm a music lover, and I understand this kind of stuff. That's why I find Chazzanut like fascinating, and Tefilah very like. Tefilah on a broader scale, like it's really if you look at Tefilah, like how you're saying how you go in and you bring the music into the Tefilah and you really make and like embody it, like you see that Tefilah is in essence like a piece. It's just like a piece of music, the way it's structured, the way we say it over when we daven. And I always found that very fascinating. And I was always like, that was one of the many things I always like to learn more in depth, like more being was Tefilah. And I found that was the connection, the music. And it's not just like you go into shul and you have somebody singing on Shabbos or there's more to it than that. And I think it's really cool that you do. That's what you do.
Absolutely. There's so much there. And in some ways, there are people that know and there is an appreciation, but I find that in some ways there's a lot of people that just were never exposed to the level of that it can take us and the music that we have in our Tefilah. And there's, going back to what we discussed before again, it's just the Chazzanut and yes Chazzanut, not Chazzanut. There's a lot of things that are people just like to categorize and put in a box. Oh, that's Chazzanut, not for me. They don't even give it a chance. And sometimes if it comes a different way, it's not scary. It's not under that name.
Right.
There's like, I get that comment so many times. Oh, I really can't stand Chazzanut, or I don't like Chazzanut, but I really enjoy this. I really enjoy what you did. Because if it's just, delivered in the right way and suddenly people are open to listening, it's not about Chazzanut, not Chazzanut. It's about the soul. It's about neshama. It's about the connection between the feeling and the meaning of the words to the music you're using, and really making it work and doing it in a beautiful way, and engaging people in that. Because the whole reason we have music as such a major part of our Tefilah and anything holy that we do, we always have music. It's something that's just built in, and you can't separate the two, because you can't reach the same connection, the same level by just saying a text. You could reach, there's certain things you could, and text has its power and the words, but at the same time, the way music can elevate a person and emotionally connect him to certain things, there's no way to achieve that otherwise. And it's really a powerful thing that's and a special thing that we have. And just have to use it in the right way.
It's funny how you're saying that people are sometimes put off by Chazzanut because they think, oh, it's not for them, whatever, blah, v'chule, v'chule. But then when you repackage it and you repurpose it and bring it out in another way, people are like, oh wow, this is really cool, really interesting. As part of what I do for a living, I'm a marketing professional. That's part of what we do for people. Is that when some people perceive something, when people see something from a new perspective, it could literally be the same product. It could be the same thing, but it's different, and people don't
100%.
realize. And I think that's pretty cool what you do. You bring this to a whole new light and bring this to a whole new attention. Now, you just came out with a song, correct? You just came out with a new song. I loved it. I listened to it, and it was very poppy, but at the same time, I could hear your background, your musical background in it also. Like I could hear out the notation. I could hear everything come out in that. So, what was behind that song? Why'd you want to come out with this song?
Wow. First of all, thank you for the compliments. That's nice to hear. And so the truth is that since the album came out a year ago, I've been involved with a couple of other projects and different genres of music that I do, and stuff's been out there, but I haven't put out something pop mainstream. And I'm doing it all the time, at weddings and events. And it's something, I had this song sitting. When I was collecting songs for the album, this was a song that I really liked, and I purchased the rights to use it, and it was just sitting there. It didn't make it into the album, but it was something that I had in mind to use in a future album or in some setting. And I started working on it, a while ago. I sent it out to Yitzi Berry and Ellie Klein, that are just a fantastic duo, super talented, that, they really did a couple of things on my album, and I did a couple of other things with them. They're really such a pleasure to work with. And we started working on the arrangement till we found something that really worked. One of the things today, I don't know if you see that end of the business so much, but a lot of composers now, when they write songs and they send them out to singers, they already have almost a full arrangement behind it. It's not so difficult to use, MIDI and stuff like that and put together a sample. And it works because, marketing, it makes the song sound much better. And like you can imagine how it could be used when you hear it with the music, versus, it used to be, or still today, some people would just send you, a little recording from their phone with, you hear like the fire truck in the background and whatever was going on there. And it's a little harder to imagine what it can sound like.
Right.
So it had already an arrangement, but we wanted to take it to something new and even newer, more 2019, fresh. So we, together we were able to come up with this concept. And then, the vocals were recorded here in America, which is also great that you can do that. Send it back and forth. It's no big deal. I worked this time with a vocal producer named Yossi Tiberg. You know that name. He's done a lot of major projects, worked with all the great singers in the business. He's really, really special to work with. And the vocals, things take time until you get the finished product and mixing and mastering. And it's just something I wanted to put out because it's a great song. It's a great message. And just the whole idea is that we first of all, if we could, we would just make music because we love it and because we enjoy it and we want the music to be out there. But it's also you want to have a presence in the market, and you want to put out good stuff so people can listen to it and associate it with you and hear about you. So it's a good time to put out something, and it's a great song. So.
No, that's really
before
cool.
Pesach especially is always a good time to put out music. People are ben azmanim, and they're traveling, and they're so something upbeat that can be a soundtrack to all the preparations.
No, definitely. So how did you end up in America? How did a nice boy from Yerushalayim end up in New York City and being the Chazzan in a shul in Manhattan?
So 9 years ago, I got a call from the assistant rabbi at the Jewish Center at the time. His name was Rabbi Ariel Orkovsky. He was the head of the search committee that was looking for a new Chazzan for their shul. The previous Chazzan had left, and they were out there looking. And the connection was made, and he reached out to me and said, we're looking for a Chazzan. We heard about you. Would you be interested? And so I sent a couple of things. I sent the resume and recordings, and one thing led to another. I came in for a Shabbat for a tryout where I led, all the davenings over Shabbos, and they said, okay, we're interested. So we worked out all the details, and that was really how it happened. I wasn't planning on this. It was a special blessing. A lot of times when you're looking for a job, when you need a job, it's harder than when you're not looking for something and you get an opportunity. Right. So you don't have the pressure and the nerves as much. So I sort of went for the ride. I had not much to lose, and it was a great experience. And then it worked out. So it was just a very, very special bonus. It was a big decision to leave everything in Israel and all my work at the weddings and the family that are still there. And I also had for a couple of years a job as a Chazzan in Montreal, but it was part-time. It was just for the high holidays and a few times over the course of the year. So that was also something that I really enjoyed, but obviously couldn't compare to a full-time job. And the decision was made. So I closed up shop and gathered my stuff and got on a plane and moved to New York City, which was a start of an amazing journey. And the community is amazing, and they really brought me in, embraced me, and doing this, being able to do this on a weekly basis and life cycle events and just being part of the community is the real deal. You can really maximize the power and the opportunity of singing and engaging people and inspiring people.
Nice.
And that's been for the past, like I said, the past 9 years. A lot has happened, a lot of good things. When I left Israel, I was single, and I moved out here as a single guy. I was 27 years old, and then a couple of years later, I met my wife, and we got married, and 5 years ago, and we have a daughter that's 3. Her name is Anna El. She's amazing.
it's such a like my kids in their gan and one of my kids have, I think each one of my kids in their schools has like 1 or 2 Anna Els. It's such it's
a beautiful name. We really loved it, and we love the meaning of the name and just the sound of it. And it was something interesting if you mentioned the name. So we chose it because we like just Anna El and the sound of it and sort of beautiful name, and it worked for us. But shortly after that, my father actually showed me that he found in a sefer that we know that most of the names that end with El are names of angels.
Right.
Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, that have different tafkidim, different roles up in Shomayim, and there's a malach named Anna El that's in charge of the gates of Tefilah.
Wow.
Which is just, so, right? They say that when we give our children names, there's Hashem gives us a little bit of Ruach HaKodesh, a little bit of Nevuah.
Mm-hmm.
Something that, how can you choose a name that's going to be the character of a person for the rest of his life when he's just born? But somehow, right. So it really all came full circle. It's very, very special.
Yofi. Now you mentioned to me also before that you're heading out for Pesach. Is this a regular occurrence, or when was the last time you had Pesach? When was the last time you had Pesach not in another country?
So I've been working with this program for over 10 years now.
Oh wow.
There was once or twice in the middle that, like, once when our daughter was born and once we just got married, that we couldn't travel, and we ended up staying home for Pesach. But even then, as a young couple, we went to my in-laws. So it wasn't that we ever had to really yet make a proper Pesach in our place, but traveling for Pesach has been a great experience, and especially now with the family joined, it's really, really nice. And we have our Pesach friends. There's people that come back every year, and we've been doing this for so long that we look forward to spending Yom Tov with them and seeing them. And it's a program in Europe, so you get people from all over the world. So once again, it's another opportunity to just broaden the scale of who you meet and who you get to know, and friends from Israel that I also just get to see once a year on Pesach, but it's a nice get together.
Wow.
And it's fun.
Oh Hashem, and it must be a nice experience. It really must be a nice experience to go and sing for people, and also like be mashpia on them with your tefillahs, no?
Absolutely. It's very, very special, and it's different also. It's a different vibe, it's a different atmosphere, it's a different setting of a shul. It's a little more of a Heimish kind of Stiebel style davening, Nusach Sfard. So it's an opportunity for me to connect those roots and do something a little different. And it's also the setting because of every people on vacation, it's holiday,
right?
Everything is just good, and it's in a beautiful hotel, so davenings are great, and then we do shows during Chol HaMoed, and we have a band coming in from Israel and singers, so it's really v'samachta v'chagecha.
There you go. And I have to say, Greece is a very nice place.
It is, especially in the resorts. Yeah, it's great, and the weather hopefully will be nice. It should be it's very close to what it is in Israel. It's a very similar.
Yeah,
climate.
It just got hot here. It just started to get hot here.
Good.
It has just started. It has begun. So, out here in Beit Shemesh, when it gets hot, it gets hot. So we're prepared.
I know.
We are prepared.
Yep. And I mentioned to you before, I just wanted to mention also that I've been here for 9 years, and Bezrat Hashem this summer I am going to be moving to a new shul on the east side, known as KJ, Kehilat Yeshurun, a very big special shul, and not far from where I am now, but just very excited for that. Just the opportunity to start, in a new community, a fresh start.
Any reason why you're moving?
It was a great opportunity. It's a larger community. They have a big school as part of the community, and just was an opportunity for me to do more work in my field than I was doing at the moment. And it was just a better opportunity for me and my family, and growing in many ways. And it just came at the right time. My contract was up over here, and we were discussing renewal. Obviously, they wanted me to stay, but this opportunity came my way, and it was just too good to say no to.
Well, there you go. Baruch Hashem. It's funny, like when I first started talking to you and I found out that you were Israeli, I was like, this guy doesn't sound like he's Israeli. But now after sitting here talking to you for the past hour, I was like, wow, yeah, I hear that Israeli English.
Yeah. It's gotten better over the years, but I can't erase my past.
No, it's okay. It's okay. My kids speak the same, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all good. I'm used to it. But wow, this was mind blowing. This was very, very cool to go behind the scenes and understand the world of Chazzanut, and understand you as a singer, as a musician, and to really give our listeners a new perspective on that world. And it's cool that you're, like I said, like you said yourself, you're a hybrid, and you kind of go both ways, and you kind of bring it together, and that's pretty cool. It seems like it's something that's not really done in your circles in the world of Chazzanut, but more power to you. So Chaim Dovid, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and I wish you luck over Pesach. You should enjoy yourself. You should have fun. You should sing, entertain, be mashpia on people. That's what it's all about. Part of what I love doing the show is I get to hear everybody's story and see how much hashpah you guys give over to people. Like you guys, whether you realize it or not, you guys give over tremendous amounts of hashpah to people, and chizik and all sorts of things that really you have the again, whether you realize it or not, and it's amazing. Yes,
amen. Thank you, and it's very true. We just, I always said that I'll be worthy to do this, lasot melachti ne'emana, to really do this right, and to utilize this powerful tool for good and the right way.
Well, there you go.
Same to you. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and
sure.
It was a pleasure virtually meeting you, and I hope to meet you in person soon.
That's you're gonna get my logo. You're gonna get my logo on your hat.
Yes, that's gonna be happen soon. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
When we say L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, we mean it. So it's gonna happen any day now. And just keep doing the amazing stuff you do, and I hope to keep sharing great music with you and with everyone else. And we should see everyone at Smachot. GoSimcha.
GoSimcha. There we go. Shkayach. You've just listened to another wonderful episode of GoSimcha the podcast. For more news, updates, and information on our next episode, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at GoSimcha Live, and don't forget to check out the show notes and videos on www.gosimcha.com along with zeradio.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, GoSimcha!